going to continue my discussion about helping people change their belief systems. And in the last video, I talked about what I call the dark side of belief, which is that what we believe is something that we internally take as an idea that becomes strongly connected to our emotions and governs our behavior. It's very important to understand that a belief is not just an opinion that you have in your head. It is something that is working inside of you to cause you to behave in a certain way. And people have certain beliefs that work in them to create functional results, happiness, health, success, so forth in their life. And they also have beliefs that are dysfunctional. They're causing them to behave in ways that are leading to self-destructive behaviors, to poor relationships with other people, to lack of success financially or otherwise. And what I call emotional healing is to go in and help to transform these beliefs. Now, one of the ways that people create a new belief is through something like affirmation. You read something, you hear something new, and you affirm it in your mind. And when it sinks in emotionally, you start to actually act on that idea as if that's true. That's the process of what I referred to in an early video as of faith. That is that you come to take an idea, you have faith in it, and you start to act on it as if it's true. And you observe the results, and eventually you find out, yes, it is true, and you adopt it as a belief, and it then begins to work automatically in your life. I did this myself when I realized that I had a poverty mentality, which I inherited from my parents, who were always worried about not having enough money and so on and so forth. So I was always worried about money. And I realized that I needed to change this. And so I came up with an affirmation, which was that I believe God wanted me to be able to take care of myself and my family. And so I said, God provides sufficient for every need. And every time I would begin to worry about money, I would simply tell myself, God provides sufficient for every need. And over the next several years, as I did this, I found that I stopped worrying about money, and I actually started to become more productive in my work and the way I did things. And my income increased. And so I started off, when I did this, I was working in the toy and lawn and garden department in Target, making just barely minimum wage. And 3 or 4 years later, I was making a very good salary working for a company called Nature Sunshine Products, and a dramatic, like 4 or 5-fold increase in my income over that 3 or 4 years. And ever since that time, I've always felt God takes care of me, even though I've been through financial struggles and setbacks and so forth. I just have this belief that somehow God will take care of me because it's something that has happened to me. I'm not talking about being rich. I'm not talking about, I'm talking about having enough to sustain your life. But then I ran into a problem that some other things became difficult to do. I mean, I couldn't just adopt it. And I realized that the reason why is because there are things that are so strongly tied in us to negative emotions, to our fears, insecurities, to the trauma, the pain, the rejection, and so forth that we've experienced in our lives. And that when we try to adopt the new belief, there's something inside of us, and it's in our heart, it's in our emotions, our feelings, that sabotages this. And when we try to do it, it gets subverted. And that's why I called it emotional healing, because it's not just a process of changing belief, it's a process of being able to go in and heal these wounded parts of ourselves. Now, how do we help people do this? This was the question that was in my mind, that over a period of time, through a set of different experiences that I believe that God brought into my life to help me understand all of this, I began to understand what needed to happen to help people who have this same problem that I had, and went through this process with many things for myself as well. So one thing I want to say, because it's really on my mind with what's going on in our world right now, is from the time I was a teenager, I had this thing of watching people argue and listening carefully to what one person was saying, what the other person was saying, and trying to understand what was going on with the conflict, because I am at heart a peacemaker, and I want to help people learn how to get along, understand each other, and so forth. And one thing I observed is that when you think someone has false belief, when you can see them doing things in their lives that aren't working, and you maybe have a positive belief that allows you to have a positive success in that area of life. That if you confront their belief, if you tell them, hey, what you're doing is wrong, what you're thinking is wrong, boom, the moment you do that, there is resistance on the other side. This is because of the strong emotions that are tied to those ideas that this person has. And they dig in and they defend themselves. And so, what I've observed is you usually cannot directly change people's behavior just by giving them advice or trying to argue with them and tell them why what they're doing or what they're thinking or what they're believing is wrong. It just does not work. And it actually encounters resistance, which makes them dig in and reinforce their belief. And so I've avoided that in my life, and I see this everywhere. I see things posted on the internet that I think that I have information that is contrary to what this person is posting. But I never just sit and type in the comments, oh, you're wrong, blah, blah, blah. This is the way it really is. Here's the evidence, so forth. Because even when I've posted something and someone has critiqued it, and I try to calmly present evidence and reasoning why I think the way I do and tell them, look, it's okay if you believe the way you do, I still find that people are resistant to ideas that conflict with their current beliefs. So one thing I've learned that is extremely critical, and that is that you are not going to be able to help anybody until you let go of your need to be right. And this is difficult for most of us to do because, number one, we've been raised in a culture that, values this idea of being right. And if you went through public school like I did, then what you do is you get rewarded for parroting what you were told is right, the right answer, and being punished for doing the wrong answer. And because I was an independent thinker, even as a teenager, I often would do things that challenged things that were said and so forth. And my questioning, of course, got me marked down in my grades. And even in 8th grade, I got hauled into the counselor's office. I was not a disruptive student or anything. I just held to my own opinions, and this kind of upset some teachers. The thing I figured out was I decided at that point that I wasn't going to let schooling interfere with my education. I was going to continue to be an independent thinker, to research things for myself, to make my own decisions about what I felt was right, what I felt was wrong. But at the same time, I've developed a very big tolerance for the fact that I understand that I'm probably not right about everything. Because over the course of many years, all the work I've done, there are many things that I thought were true, that I was living my life according to them, that weren't working for me. And I had to dig in and analyze this and change these things and change my beliefs. I have to change many beliefs that I've had about many, many things. And so I'm not arrogant enough to think that I now know everything and that nobody else knows anything. And so you have to develop this attitude of respecting the right for people to disagree. And I see this really disappearing in our society, which is of deep concern to me, because the tendency we have to view people with opposing opinions or beliefs as enemies and attack them actually just polarizes people more deeply and drives us further and further apart, creating a lot of disharmony, conflict, and problems in the world. So if we're going to help people to heal, we have to start from a place of respecting them, allowing them to be themselves, and loving them for who they are. And so the first thing I want to tell everybody about what I do about emotional healing is that you have to begin with an unconditional acceptance that I accept you just how you are. I don't reject you as a person. I'm not going to view you as evil or bad or deserving of punishment or whatever. I'm just going to try to understand you and where you're from. And so that non-judgmental attitude that I start with has an amazing effect on people because they feel it, because it's genuine. It's not something I'm faking. I genuinely am interested in people, and I genuinely respect their right to be who they are. Now, I will have boundaries as far as what people's behavior is with me. Like, I'm sorry, I don't tolerate that, you need to stop that, or we're just going to have to, end this relationship. But that doesn't mean I hate the person that I'm setting a boundary for. Understand? It's their right to behave the way they are, and it's my right to say no to it. But coming back to doing the emotional healing work, when you take that attitude with people, they start talking to me, and the very loving, accepting willingness to listen and try to understand where they're coming from, that comes out of my genuine desire to love and respect them and help them. They start telling me things, and they'll suddenly stop and they'll go, I've never said this to anyone before. Why am I saying this to you? I don't know why I'm telling you these things. This has happened to me many, many times. Or they'll start to talk to me and they'll start to experience these emotions. They'll start to express this pain. They'll start to cry. They'll start to get in touch with things that were very painful and traumatic for them. They've never talked to anyone else about. They've always been afraid to open up to anyone for fear of being judged, criticized, condemned, and so forth. And they go, I'm sorry, I'm crying, I'm sorry. And I go, it's okay. And what happens is, so often, once a person feels like someone is understanding them, is helping to see, where they're coming from, it is a healing process in of itself, because that loving kindness and respect that you show opens them up to the possibility that maybe there is something inside of me that I need to change. And they often discover that for themselves. In other words, I don't give them advice. I don't tell them what to do. I help them discover inside of themselves what is operating in them that's not working, and let them make the decision that they need to change it. And then guide them with again, listening, respecting, whatever, to help them see for themselves what it is they need to do and what they need to change. So I just want to encourage everybody in this environment that we have, where people are so willing to criticize, argue, condemn, people who disagree with them, that if you step back a little bit and you really try to listen to other people, listen to their point of view, get out of your echo chamber, out of your having to reinforce and defend your own position, and you start to try to understand the position of other people, well, for number one, you might learn something that might help to alter your opinion, but also people are more willing to listen to what you have to say when they feel like you care for them, that you're not their enemy, that you're not out to attack them, destroy them, beat them up, condemn them, etc. And so I hope that this message will help you in working with people to understand the really big importance of starting out, putting your own ego aside, your own need to be right, and trying to understand other people. Because when I've listened to some of the trauma that people have experienced in their life, some of the abuse that people have experienced in their life, I've come to understand, of course you behave that way. If I was treated that way, or I had those experiences, I don't know if I could have done any better. And that's one of the things that has totally changed my life in doing this work, is I don't judge people anymore, because I don't know what they've been through. I don't know what kind of trauma they've endured, what kind of abuse they've endured, what kind of problems that they had that caused them to develop these dysfunctional beliefs that are so strongly tied to these emotions. And I stopped judging people. But also what's interesting is when I stopped judging other people, I stopped judging myself. I started to be kinder to myself and more willing to say, okay, Stephen, yeah, you're wrong sometimes. It's okay. Everybody's wrong sometimes. You just change. Okay. And it makes you more willing and more open to learn and so forth. So thank you for watching this message. I will try to continue to post more messages about the emotional healing work and why this concept of loving people, not judging people, and being willing and open to really listen to people is what opens the door for emotional healing in future videos. Until then, have a wonderful day. If you enjoyed this message, hit the like button and share it with other people who may benefit from it. Subscribe to the Heart's Key channel and hit the notification bell to be notified when I post my latest videos.